Hello everyone, hi, happy Wednesday, happy scoping out. I'm so glad that you're here, my lovelies, because I know last week was super hard. You know, I really went out on a limb because we had talked about in the previous week what it looks like when you're hearing advice from people like me, coaches and counselors, and telling you, yeah, I went through a hard time and here's what it looks like, but you kind of get the montage, everything's sort of on fast forward, and the ultimate perception ends up being, from the audience's perspective, is, yeah, but that's you. That's you. Me going through that stuff is a totally different thing. So last week I got really vulnerable about my feelings and my response to the election, and it was really rough last week. And I told you last week that I would come to center. I told you last week that I would get there. Well, guess what? I've gotten there. And that doesn't mean that there aren't times when I'm just a little bit knocked off of my center, and that's always practice to come back to it. So question number one is, how do you get there? How do you get to that centered place when everything has got this push and pull and social media is just in your face? I don't care what side of this equation you're on. Nobody's being treated fairly right now. Everybody is being just bombarded with negativity and ugliness. So how do you find your center in that place? And then the second question we'll answer is, okay, so how do I affect change? If I don't like this, if I want to stand up for equal rights for everybody, how do I affect change if I'm not mad as hell about it, right? How do I do that? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Coming to center. Very quickly, if you've been following these for a while, you've heard me talk about how to get there. You've heard me talk about over and over again, every time we are in a painful situation, that is our opportunity to practice something about ourselves, something good about ourselves. So the first thing you do is you go in and you ask yourself, you turn off all the noise. This isn't about your circumstances. This isn't about the election. This isn't about human rights. This isn't about anything yet. This is just about you. So when you turn off all that noise and you go inward and you go, what do I love about myself? What is good about myself, right? You come to this place that is absolutely wholeheartedly right here in your core. What am I? Who am I? Right? And you get really clear on that. Am I compassionate? Am I kind? Am I forgiving? Am I loving? Am I inclusive? Am I a communicator? What are these things that I'm really good at? What are these things that make me feel like I'm showing up well in the world? That I'm showing up whole and doing the work that I'm meant to do in this world? You write those things down. You get super clear on what that is inside of you. That becomes your go-to answer. Every time you hit a painful spot in life, every single time you hit something that is uncomfortable, that is scary, that hurts, just downright painful in your life, you come back to that list and you go, which of these is this an opportunity to practice? And I told you last week this was going to be my opportunity to practice grace. I knew it. I couldn't get there yet. I was so upset I couldn't get there yet. But I knew that ultimately this was going to be my opportunity to practice grace. And I knew that because I was so angry at the voters. I was so angry that so many people could vote for hate, right? And I knew there's what I knew logically, there's what I knew in my head, which was that wasn't the mindset of everybody who voted that way, in the direction of the least, right? And I could know that logically. But that was not informing my belief system. That was not informing my feelings, right? So when I come back and I go, okay, I know this is my opportunity to practice grace. I had to feel what I felt, knowing it was not going to be forever, knowing that I'm not an angry person. I'm not an upset person. I don't get flustered. I'm fairly unflappable about pretty much everything anymore. So knowing that about myself, this was going to be my opportunity to be really pushed hard and grab those pieces about myself that I love and bring myself back to that place. And that's how you get to that centered place where you can be peaceful and you can be happy even amidst the chaos, right? Because peace isn't the absence of chaos. Peace is the centeredness that happens inside of you regardless of the chaos. Do you understand? That's what you really, really want to focus on, is what is it inside of me that I can grab, that I can practice, that I can be better at, because here is where I have control. You hear me talk about it all the time. If you're focused on somebody else, you're out of your lane. You're out of the area that you have any control over. So you always bring your attention right back here. This is where your focus is. This is what you work on every single time. And that's how you get centered. Here's my opportunity to practice. Here's my opportunity to practice. And that doesn't mean you're going to get it right out of the gate. It doesn't mean you're going to get it right every single time. And when you don't get it right, guess who you get to practice grace with? Yourself. So this isn't about beating yourself up when you get it wrong, or beating yourself up if you haven't really tapped into and used the pieces of yourselves that do things well and do things lovingly and fairly, right? This is about the practice. So you come to center and you find this piece of yourself that you want to hold on to, that you want to nurture, that you want to foster and bring to the world. Thank you, cat. And then you practice grace with your cat, who's messing with your little studio space. Then, how do you, after that, after you've come to center, how do you still affect change? We have this idea that if we really are going to make changes in this world, we have got to be mad as hell. We have got to be, rage against the machine, come out swinging, come out with, guns ablazing, and make sure everybody hears your voice, make sure that everybody knows you're mad and this has to change. That is one way to affect change. We've seen it. Generally speaking, though, what that does is it creates a pendulum shift. It moves the pendulum all the way on the other side. And what happens when we move stuff all the way to the other side? It's going to swing back. So we end up in, this group is mad as hell. No, this group is mad as hell. No, this group is mad as hell. And we end up just going back and forth and back and forth. And we never find that place where we're like, both groups at least feel heard. Oh my God, she knocked the whole damn thing over. Oh well. Yeah, we're just going to run with it. We want to get to a place where everybody feels heard and everybody feels nurtured and everybody feels like that the two sides of an issue are not mutually exclusive. It's not this one or that one. That we can find a way that can make it this one and this one, right? Because if you look at the two sides of the spectrum, if you look at the fear side of both sides of what we're seeing going on today, the whole reason the least could get elected in the first place is because he listened to a voice in America that has felt, for the first time ever in American history, as far as I know, marginalized. White, working class men and their families, right? For the first time ever, they felt marginalized and they didn't know what to do with it. So it became a zero-sum game to them. It became, it's their rights or it's my rights. It's my right to a job or it's their rights to a job. It's my right to be treated fairly or it's their right to be treated fairly. And they didn't understand that there was a way we could do both. They didn't understand that we can a rising tide lifts all ships, right? So what was the pushback? The pushback was, well, this has got to change. Nobody's going to fight for my rights. I've got to fight for my rights. And that's where he got his popularity. That was the voice he heard, right? That's that pendulum swing this way. What we want to be able to do is say, okay, white working class men and their families, we hear your concerns. And we are not going to ignore the concerns of marginalized communities that have been marginalized for generations, right? We get to do both of these things. We get to hear both of these sides. And at the core of that, at the middle of that, is the same solution. Enough jobs, fair laws, safe environments in our schools and our workplace, right? At the middle of that is this piece we can agree on. Now, if we can get that side and this side to come together, we can affect the change that will make the extremists, the white supremacists, they won't have a home anymore because their home is this divisiveness. Their home is the pendulum swing on one side. That's their home. When we bring these together and we find this common ground and we work from this space in the middle, then these extremists on either side of the spectrum, they don't have a home. They lose their voice. And guess what? What we begin to model for our next generation is peace. What we begin to model for our next generation is cooperation, collaboration, and corroboration. So what comes next is a new generation that sees it can be done another way. So if that's the kind of peace you want, what you do is be the change you wish to see in the world, right? We heard this from the Dalai Lama. Be the change you wish to see in the world. That's not a call to action to change the circumstances. That is a call to action to change yourself. If you want peace, be peace. If you want joy, be joy. And go out and talk to people. And make sure the voice that you don't agree with is feeling heard. And create, find that common ground and get that conversation started. Right? That's be the change. We can never, ever, ever affect change outside of ourselves in any long-lasting way. We just can't. It's outside of our lane. We can barely control what goes on in here, right? So if you want peace, be peace, and then be peaceful in that exchange. Create that conversation with the other side of the issue from this place of, okay, I am genuinely here to listen. I am seeking first to understand. I'm putting aside my biases. I'm putting aside as much as I can, right? I'm putting aside the things that I think are right and righteous long enough to say, tell me how you see things. Allow me the opportunity to ask questions and reflect back so that I can gain insight, so I can gain understanding. And from that place, invariably, you will. Even just that surface layer, you might not ever agree with them, you might not ever see things exactly the way they see them, but you can at least say, okay, I understand you enough to find this common ground. Where do we go from here? Now, there's two kinds of people out there, right? There's the person that's just glad to be heard and is ready to walk away. They just wanted to be heard. Then there's this other kind of person that says, gosh, I feel really heard. That feels really good. Let me ask you, so how do you see things? Now you've got an exchange. Now you've got a partner in this change from that peaceful, joyful, loving place. Partners that you didn't think you'd ever have coming together from that peaceful, joyful, loving place. That kind of change is a long-lasting change because it's not relying on huge cultural shifts from one side to the other. It's relying simply on this common ground we all share where we want to feel safe, secure, loved, treated fairly, and given and being able to create opportunities. Okay? So, your homework is to go out there and be the change you wish to see in the world. Be peace, be joy, be love, and work from that place when you're out to affect change in these groups where you're galvanizing around issues and where you're hitting the streets and you're creating these conversations, and come to it with that energy. Come to it from that space inside of yourself. And thank you for understanding about my cat tearing up my space during this video. I'm so glad you're here. Send me your comments. Let me know how it goes. I love the exchange. These are live every Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time. You can stay in touch with me at the blog at tiffanyhammond.com/blog or on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Triffany Hammond. So hopefully I'll see you again next time live. Bye everybody. Be peace, be the change, be the love, and do some good in the world. Bye.